hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. And welcome, everybody, to the Paranormal Portal Bedtime Stories from Beyond. I'm your host, Brian Thomas. I hope you're having a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for being here. I love this show. Well, thank you, Rebecca. That's very sweet. I love you, too. Thanks so much for being here. Hey, Carrie, good to see you. Lewis, Moog, good to see you guys. And so many more are coming in, too. Big Rob, Renee Harvey. That's wonderful. And Mary, of course, was the first one through the gate. Great presences so far. Thank you guys for coming in and being a part of the show. It's the last night of your weekend, and it's always incredibly humbling that you choose to spend it right here with me. I just feel so honored by that. It's really a humbling feeling. But thank you guys so much for bestowing that honor upon me. I will do my best, of course, throughout the course of the show to keep you thoroughly entertained, or at least as entertained as I'm capable, which depends on what's going on. But sometimes that can be pretty cool, and sometimes that can be a train wreck. But both times, usually it's entertaining anyway. So just thrilled you're here, and thank you so much. This is the Bedtime Stories from Beyond. Hello, Rick. Good to see you. Purple Hobbit Rick. It's great to see you, brother. Thanks for coming in as well. Just all kinds of people flying in. Cameron made it in. Cha-Cha's in here. Hello, Cha-Cha. Let's see. Am I missing anybody else? I'm sure there'll be more and more and more and more. But yeah, Lisa Heilman, hi. Welcome to the show. I guess there's quite a crowd here already. The numbers are climbing quickly, so I'm just trying to keep up with who's coming into the room. But I guess I'll just read the population sheet in just a bit. But I just got to say, I hope you're all ready, because it's time for bed. And Gemini Moon just came in, as well as Noli. Good to see you both. Thank you so much for being here. I'm just watching the names continue to pile in through the doorway. It's a mad rush. It's kind of like Black Friday here on YouTube is what it's like every time I start the show. I wish that were true, but it cracked me up, and that's got to be worth something. So, been a long day, but I guess long days got to happen too. At least it seems like I'm aging a little more slowly then, right? But I hope you guys had a great weekend. Monday's right around the corner, of course, and that's also oftentimes kind of the time of lament and mourning for many of us. But just try to make it as good a day as you can. Hello, Todd Evans. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in. Just keeping on watching here. Who's coming in the door? Who is it? Who's here? But it looks like it's kind of plateaued off, at least now, as far as the chatting people. But let me go through the list as long as we're at it here. I'll just officially read it. I've been trying to watch and just say hello as people are coming in. Oh, did Wes come in? Oh, I didn't see Wes. I didn't see that, Wes, but welcome if you're here. I didn't know he came in. So, I'm just watching. But thanks, guys, for being here. Let's go through the list and see who is here. Beth Fierce is here. Bigfoot Odyssey. Carrie is here. Good to see you, Carrie. Thanks for coming in. Big Rob, what the hell number is that? 380. And Cameron F. Cha-Cha is here. Gemini Moon. Jacqueline Brill Sands. Good to see you, Jacqueline. Thank you so much for coming in. That's a new name for me. Justin Goodearth. Good to see you. Thank you so much for coming. Christina Potter. Hello. Welcome, Christina. Lisa Heilman, Lewis and Mary. Mogyon and Noli. Welcome, all you guys. Thank you so much for coming in. Rebecca, Renee Harvey, Rick, Purple Hobbit, Tesla Tech, Todd Evans, and of course, World Bigfoot Radio. The Duke is in the building. So that's good. That's a good roster so far. I'm liking that. Thank you guys so much. It's absolutely wonderful. But anyway, here we go. I got some stories pulled up for you as per usual. The phone lines will be open throughout the entirety of the show. So if you have something that you'd like to share, please feel free to call in and let me know if you've had an experience or some feedback about something we're talking about. If you've got something to add to it, I'd love to hear your thoughts. The phone number for the Paranormal Portal is 720-923-0500. Again, 720-923-0500. Let's test this out, because I just always want to test this before every show, and I didn't do it today, so let me just call. Let me call the number here. 720-923-0500. Let's hear what's going on. Am I on the air? Ooh. I guess it works. Okay. It worked. We are live and the phones appear to be working, so I guess this is a good start to our night. But anyway, let's continue our journey. I'll get started on some of these stories and we'll see where we end up by the entirety of the show. So, all right. Oh, Deb, come in. Hey, Deb, how you doing? Good to see you. Did I miss anybody else? Again, we had a great show with Deb last Friday night. It was by far the longest Paranormal Portal episode ever at 3 hours and 40 minutes. We did the 2-hour network show, and then we carried on at overtime for another hour and 45 minutes on YouTube. So it was a hell of a long run, but it was a great night. And thank you again to all of you who participated in our reading night. That was a lot of fun, and it was definitely one for the Paranormal Portal record books. It is up on YouTube if you want to check out that episode, and yeah, it really is, Lewis. It was a long haul, but it's funny because even though the show went that long, I guess what it proved to me is, the plan is on Halloween night to do a Paranormal Portal-thon, and I don't know how long I'm going to make it. I don't know, but the nice thing about that episode is that even at 4 hours, it really went quick, or nearly 4 hours. It was just like a blink, and it was like done. So I thought that was really incredible, and I guess it gives me faith that I can at least put on a several hour show for you guys on Halloween night. And of course, Don should be here as well that night. But I think we can do it and maybe do a reasonable job at it. I don't know how long it'll be. I guess I'll go until I just run out of steam, or if I fall asleep, as I'm sitting here, then I guess you'll know the show is over, unless you like the sound of me snoring, which I wouldn't probably recommend to anybody. But I'm going to give it a shot, and we'll just have fun with it and see what happens. But that is planned for Halloween night here on the show, and we'll have a good time with it, I'm sure. So definitely, if you're up late and just can't sleep because of all that Halloween fun, then stop by and check it out. We'd love to see you guys here. But yeah, we're just going to roll with it. We're just going to just see where we can end up. I don't know. It'll be fun. I love doing different things because, we never have the same show twice. That it's always a new show every time. But when we do something so different like that, it should be really neat to see how it all pans out in the end. But I'll be counting on you guys to participate in that night too. So think up your coolest ghost stories or your coolest haunted experiences or paranormal experiences, whatever those may be, whether they're of the cryptid variety or UFO or ghosts. Love to hear it all. That'll be a great format for that show. And I don't know what I'm going to appear as that night, but I'll try to. Last year I was Don Longbeard. I still got the beard in my bin over here. It was the itchiest, messiest thing I've ever had. And it kept going up my nose and everything. It was just terrible. But I don't know, maybe it's different when you actually have the beard. But I'm here to tell you, I didn't have a lot of fun with it. But I full disclosure, I can't really grow a beard anyway. I just got the splotchy mess that turns out looking like something crawling out of Fukushima. So it's best that I don't try to grow a beard. It's not in my genetics, apparently. So, but yeah, that was last year. I don't know what I'll do this year. We'll see. I'll be creative, I promise, or at least as creative as time allows. But anyway, let's get started here. I got a story coming to you from Maine right off the bat. Oh, that is funny. Thanks, Gemini. Yeah, it was funny. It was a fun night. I don't remember what the hell Don was. Now that I'm thinking about it, was he a pirate or something? I can't remember. But yeah, I was like, I don't know. It was funny. It's a big long brown beard. It's just a mess. I looked like I was ready for my tryout on Duck Dynasty. But Maine is the story tonight. First off, the bat says, my first, it says he first. H-E was the first two letters of the story. I think it means my. Okay, the first, the. Should have been a T in that box. So the first paranormal experience I ever had was when I was in the 4th grade. My mom and dad split up and we moved to a new house. And up to this point, my older sister and I were shared a bedroom. Needless to say, it took me a little while to get used to having my own room. When I would go to bed at night, I could swear I heard footsteps going up and down the hall just outside my doorway. And when I would go downstairs and tell my mom, she would tell me it was the baseboard heat making the noises. And I tried to tell her I knew the difference in the sounds, but she really didn't want to hear it. Well, one night I was sleeping when my foot brushed up against something at the end of my bed. I woke up and looked down there, and there was an older man sitting there looking at me. Well, that's creepy as hell. He was kind of short and older looking. He was wearing a blue Dickies outfit like a repairman would wear, and he stared at me for about 30 seconds with a soft smile on his face. Well, that's sweet at least. Yeah, it's not like he's looking at you menacingly, but he slowly faded away, and I heard his footsteps go out my door and walk up and down the hallway 3 times and then stop. During this, I was scared, but not scared. I now knew where the footsteps came from, and every night after that, as soon as I went to bed, he would start at my doorway and walk up and down the hallway 3 times and stop at my door. About 4 years later, I took over my sister's bedroom at the other end of the hall, and I listened the first night going to bed, and he was right there to pace and protect me. Yeah, that sounds like a really cool presence, I guess. You know, it's just like, this is the noise you're hearing, kid. I'm here, and I'll be walking up and down your hallway all night. You know, I guess, again, I gotta wonder, what kind of afterlife is that? If it's truly a fully aware presence, a fully aware personality. I mean, what kind of a reality is it to every night you get to appear, walk up and down a short hallway, and then, fade away and just continue walking? I don't know. That just sounds, if maybe there's no such thing as madness in the spirit world. I don't know. But I'm here to tell you, if it was me, I'd be going crazy, absolutely batty. If that's the full portion of my reality was sitting in a hallway, walking up and down, maybe looking at people sleeping. That would be incredibly disturbing, a reality. But I don't know, maybe it's not the whole experience of that apparition. I don't know. It's just really strange. It's like, really, is that all you're looking for in the afterworld, is just to hang out in one little hallway? That seems really disappointing to me. So I hope that's not the whole of the experience for the rest of us. But whatever that guy's deal is, I don't know. But, I mean, it's a sweet story. Obviously, the kid wasn't real threatened by it and felt even comforted by it. And I think that's awesome. So let's go to the next one. And this one is coming from Maine again. 2 back-to-back Maine stories. That's almost unheard of here on the portal. So what's going on in Maine this time? It says it's a difficult to articulate a lifetime of scattered experiences in one narrative, but I'll really do my best. I spent my entire life in my home. It's an old farmhouse built in 1824, and it was a single-family home from 1824 until 1966, when my grandfather bought it from the Davey estate. Davey estate, D-A-V-E-E. As a kid sleeping in the house, I was really terrified of the walking around in the upstairs. It was every night, and it was constant. My siblings and I never discussed it when we were growing up, but as adults, we all share stories of the noises and being scared at night. My sisters would always sleep with the lights on. I didn't want to scare my children with it, so I really never told them, and when we moved in, my youngest was terrified and crying, and my son was comforting her by telling her that you get used to the noises walking around. and the three of them was experiencing all this stuff on their own. There are quiet times, but they are unusual. The house is always filled with inexplicable noises, especially upstairs. Walking around, knocking on an occasional banging, sometimes rather loudly. I don't usually get unnerved by the happenings, but one time, within the past couple of years, I was lying down in the upstairs room that I am converting from a huge bathroom into a moderate bathroom, and I was home alone, and the noises were pretty intense and actually pretty close. The heavy walking around close to bed and into the next room, and it was more than I could handle, and I finally left for a while. This is the room my daughter slept in, and she often spoke of waking and seeing an old lady in different places in the room, sometimes sitting right on the bed, watching her sleep. Both my daughters and stepdaughters and my current girlfriend have all seen this lady, always watching someone sleep. And they see her clearly enough to describe her hair and her clothing. My son and I have both spotted twice apiece the outline or image of a man shuffling from the driveway, through the porch, and across the kitchen. He doesn't acknowledge us at all and is always in the same shuffle. There is also a shadow that I keep catching out of the corner of my eye, and I get the impression that it was a small boy, or a child at any rate, most usually dashing around in the kitchen and shed. Once I was soldering in the basement, and I was home alone, and when I heard women chatting, and I thought my daughters had come home, and I went up to see them, but nobody was there. This kind of freaked me out, and I checked the house and locked the doors and went back down to soldering, but the voices returned. Another time I was refinishing the interior doors and had removed the door between the parlor and the kitchen, and later that night, I was checking the house before going to bed, and as I stepped into the parlor, someone yelled, "Hey," from the doorway. It scared the hell out of me, and it was loud enough to wake the baby. Startled, I started turning on lights, and I got a really bad vibe from the pantry and did not go in to turn on that light. On my way out of the kitchen, a loud bang sounded from the pantry. My ex had dogs in the house, and occasionally they would go crazy. Once the shepherd tore the kitchen up trying to get out. When we finally got to him, he was so scared that he couldn't stand. The other shepherd would wake up barking and hackled, always facing the corner where the couch sits. He would back up, snarling and barking, and then follow something into the downstairs hallway and then come back out and go back to sleep as if nothing had happened. There are other things that are harder to put a finger on. Things moved or were missing, and you find yourself doubting yourself or blaming someone else. When my grandmother was in the hospital, my brother stayed with my grandfather, and every day something was moved or taken. My grandfather always denied involvement, and we believe him. 4 a.m. seems to have been the most significant time, as often members of the house, none of us morning people, will wake up wide awake at that time. Few people stay that do not have some experience in the house. Despite it all, everyone comments on how secure and homey they feel there. So there's another instance of just some presences that are not really, I don't know. I mean, it sounds like they're kind of disruptive, so it seems like they're plenty aware of the people there, but they're not going out of their way to really piss people off or to terrify them. It's just they just like to be noticed. Maybe, I don't know. Very strange though. I don't know. It's a good story though. Another good story. We're off to a good start with 2 great stories right off the bat, ladies and gentlemen, and that's how we like it here on the Portal. Nice and spooky, but not terrifying. And we don't do a lot of terrifying on the show, really. Well, now that I think about it. I think the stories can be tense and nerve-wracking at times, but generally the stories we cover are not often absolutely terrifying kind of stories, except for Calvin's story last night. If you missed that, listen to last night's episode. We got an email from a gentleman named Calvin, who's an over-the-road trucker, and he is a friend of Ty, who I had on the as an interview on the podcast, and Ty explained all his experiences. And then his friend Calvin, who's also a trucker, wrote in about his experience. And it's one hell of an incredible experience. It's absolutely terrifying. That's one of those that I think it really, even reading it, I got creeped out. And as a rule, I don't generally read things before the show. I like it to be, my reactions to be organic as well, not like a rehearsed reaction like, well, wow, that's weird. I just like it to be like, a conversation that we have. But it was really freaky. Don got the chills and the goosebumps listening to it, and I don't know if you guys were there. If any of you were there, I thought it was an amazing story, and I'm going to try to get him. I'm trying to get Calvin on to do that as an interview for the podcast, because I'm sure there's more to that story, but that's what he wrote down. So if there's more to that story, oh my God, that was intense. And for all intents and purposes, it sounds like he bumped into a ghoul/rake. And those are, of all the things out there, that would be my least favorite to run into. And I think there's a lot of creepy crap out there, don't get me wrong, but something about I know rake is a hotly contested term, but let's just call them ghouls, because ghouls have been around forever and recognized forever in this paranormal lore. But whatever these ghouls are, they're just creepy as hell. And they're not people. They're not human beings. They resemble us to a degree, but from what I can tell, they're not human beings. They are just something else. And whatever the hell that else is, I don't know. But there's just even reading about them and it just makes me think, oh my God, get out of there. So check it out. If you didn't hear that last night, that's at the beginning of the show last night. We had some great stories by Lisa as well, one of our listeners, who submitted a bunch of stories, and she sent in a couple that we read last night as well. So we had some really good experiences shared on the show last night. So if you didn't hear it, go back and check it out. But the next story is coming from Maryland, and this is, let's see. Growing up, I had a stepfather with whom I had a really warm and affectionate relationship. I'm not sure to this day what exactly made us click the way we did, but it did happen. Unfortunately, he died when I was 23. I had a new baby. In fact, my older son was only 2 months old to the day when Dad died. My 14-year-old brothers, twins, the children of our mother's marriage to my stepfather, and our mother had died when I was 16, and they were only 8, and a husband stationed in Alaska. Well, I'll fast forward to the summer of 1982. My then husband was deployed in the Sinai Peninsula. He was part of the first multinational force sent to observe the return of the Sinai from Israel to Egypt. A 6-month tour where it turned out the greatest enemy was boredom. Again, I had a new baby, but only one of my brothers with me, and we decided to make a trip home since my other half was on the other side of the world, and none of the family on either of his side or mine had seen the new addition, who was now the ripe old age of 4 months. We made the journey and had an enjoyable 2 weeks with our older sisters and my in-laws and friends, but the inevitable time came to start the trip back home. We left my in-laws' home in Philadelphia at about 6 in the morning. I decided to take a different route, staying mostly on US 301, and at the time it was pretty. Much a 2-lane road, I-95 was still under construction in many areas, but I had the advantage of bypassing Washington, D.C. and Richmond, Virginia, where most of the traffic tie-ups were at that time, and it also spared me the trouble of paying the tolls on the Richmond-Petersburg Turnpike. I was driving through Maryland. My brother had fallen back to sleep, and my 2 sons were also sleeping peacefully, and I felt my eyes starting to get heavy, and the next thing I knew, I heard a voice yelling, "Chris, wake up!" I opened my eyes and realized I'd nearly fallen asleep at the wheel. More than a little bit shaken, I pulled off onto the shoulder of the road and then woke my brother, who immediately asked what was wrong. "I started to fall asleep," I said. "What woke you?" Well, I hesitated. The little boys were still snoozing, so I took the plunge. I could have sworn I heard Dad yelling at me to wake up. My brother's expression registered surprise, to say the least. He sat there for a minute or two before he said, "Really? Well, that's weird. I knew he had something else on his mind, so I waited, and a few moments after later, he looked back up at me and said slowly, "Well, you know, Dad used to drive this road every summer when we went to Florida, but do you know what he told us Mom said before she died?" I shook my head, and our mother, by this time, had been dead for 13 years. "Well," my brother said, "Dad always told us that one of the last things Mom said to him was, 'Promise you'll take care of Chris and the boys.'" I sat there, my mouth open in a positive gape. Sounds cliche, I know, but I guess he made the promise and took it seriously. Wow, that's very cool. It's nice to think they might be there, keeping an eye on us, keeping us awake as we're traveling down the road. I've done that. It's a nightmare scenario, and I've been guilty of it myself. I was driving a lot and not sleeping well for a long time, and I was doing these 1 hour journeys, and I gotta say, at least a couple of times, I remember being so tired and just struggling to stay awake, and but being too stubborn to pull over, and the next thing I know, I'm waking back up going 70 miles an hour, and then I realize, oh my God, I actually nodded off. I actually slept for part of that, and that is just absolutely terrifying. Because, I mean, everything obviously is okay, but it so easily could have been not okay. And the gravity of that situation takes over, and then, of course, you panic for about the next 45 minutes thinking about it. But, yeah, it's just a horrible experience, and sometimes it's really hard to just stay away watching mile after mile after mile of road go by, but it's a nightmare. And so, but I'm still here. I'm obviously here doing fine, doing the show for you, but yeah, that's a terrible experience, and I'm glad that those people were okay as well. And I guess having a deceased loved one yelling in your ear is a good way to restore you to wakefulness. All right, the next story is South Carolina. Several people asked for an update on the roaming condo imp. Well, here you go. Now that sounds interesting. I think I kind of remember that. I know we read that submission from this person a while ago. I don't know when though, but let's see what they say. As I said last time, my other neighbors are hardly ever home. Well, I think the imp got bored playing pranks there, so I guess it decided that it liked my condo because it came back. Well, things started happening again, and I told it that if it messed with the dog or started being mean again, I would banish it from coming back. I read somewhere that banishing stops spirits from residences works. I don't know what that sentence really means. And then he asked, does it? Well, I think so, but it depends on who's doing the banishing, I guess. So I felt my hair get pulled, and not like a yank. I think it was trying to tell me that it understood, but I couldn't tell you. So for a few weeks now, it's been playing little tricks and stuff, switching things around, making stuff disappear, etc. But not as bad as it had been the last time. I wanted to make it feel more liked, so I started calling it Bart, after the Simpsons character. And it will usually listen to me now when I ask it not to take certain things. I think that Bart has been lonely for a long time, and he was kind of angry with being ignored by people for so long. Holly, my dog, is still afraid of him, but I don't blame her. He hasn't done anything mean to her. He had a few of her toys, but nothing to the degree that he used to. I figured out that Bart really likes to rummage through my clothes. Girl spirit, perhaps. I don't know. And take the cinnamon that usually never comes back. But Bart has been a totally different entity. I think he actually is just naturally mischievous and doesn't like to be ignored or neglected. He doesn't like my friend Brooks at all, and I think that he is okay with Victoria coming over. I don't know. It's like walking in on a conversation. There's somebody talking and you're trying to track who the hell they're talking about, and I don't remember part one, so I should have been more careful about that one because I don't remember what the other story was about. But it says, so far, we are happily coexisting, and I know that as long as I remain in my condo, we can be friends. Maybe that's not all. Maybe that's everything that he wanted, just a friend. What do you guys think he is? I'm still way curious, and there's no way I'm using a Ouija board. Well, good for you. You should not use a Ouija board if you don't know what you're doing. Okay. So that was that story. I don't know. Again, I don't remember the context of the first story enough to that story makes too much sense to me, but it happens. Okay, this is Louisiana. This tale isn't so much about me, but my children, actually. At the time this occurred, they were 7, 5, and 4 years old, respectively, all girls and utterly determined to share the same bedroom no matter how much space we actually had. The girls are close, love each other a lot, and never far apart from each other, which is really nice since we're all army brats, and with my husband deployed quite often. So one night the girls are all sleeping soundly in their bedroom, and my husband and I are snoring in our own room down the hall, when all of a sudden the children begin screaming madly and shrilly, running down the hall, demanding that we save them from the big white dog they'd seen in their room. My husband ran down to their room but couldn't see anything out of the ordinary, and we both questioned the children, and they all swore they'd seen the same thing. A white dog, huge, with shining red eyes, that stood in the corner of their room watching them. They were absolutely terrified. My husband is a sensitive, but I'm not, which isn't to say that either one of us disbelieves in strange, unexplained things, but since my husband leans towards a belief in a shamanistic faith, we both thought the thing could have been some sort of spirit animal. But we remain worried and anxious that it could have been a manifestation of something bad or evil. And I was wondering if anyone had a similar experience or maybe some thoughts they'd be willing to share. It's been quite some time since the event occurred, and actually no other incidents have marred our experiences, but I still wonder after it all the same. I don't know. Again, I think spirits can appear however they choose to. They can appear as a shadow. They can appear as the person they were. They can appear in some distorted fashion, like being 8 feet tall. They're not constrained by the same things we are, and so if they feel like 10 feet tall, they'll be 10 feet tall, and if they feel like they're the size of a booger, they'll be the size of a booger, and it just doesn't seem to have any bearing on their ability. It's just however they want to appear. So I don't know if is that a form of telepathy that they project that image to people, or if that's actually the way that they're manifesting a form in a physical sense, and I don't know. Either or, I guess. So many questions, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so we gotta get some more stories up here because we burned through those first ones in a quick hurry. So I got some. I don't know if that one's gonna be. No, we're not gonna do that last one. So let me just get this one. Okay, so this one's coming from California. I'm dreaming about California, ladies and gentlemen. There's no question. The weather's warm there. A lot warmer than here anyway. Man, this is just brutal. When my cousin was 1.5, he was at his house in Travor, Travr, California, okay, and was at home with my aunt, pointing to a corner and said, "Boots." She didn't see anything, so she looked for his toy boots, and when she tried to give them to him, he refused and kept saying boots. After that, they moved to Fresno, California, and my aunt was feeding my cousin spaghetti when he asked her why the guy was staring at him. She didn't see anything and asked him what the guy looked like, and he said he was old like Papa and was wearing black cowboy boots and a cowboy hat with a long black coat. And she asked him what he was doing now, and he said that he was gone. The last time he saw him, he was 3 years old, and it was Halloween. And they were at the church, and they were outside, and he said that he was in the bouncy house and said that he stopped jumping and came out to stare at him. The aunt got scared and decided to take my cousin home. Now at 4.5 years old, and doesn't seem to remember ever seeing this man at all. I think seeing the man would be really freaky, and my mom said that she saw the same thing when she was young, but was so scared she didn't tell anyone. We're not sure if he's good or evil because he was at the church, but it was Halloween. He never hurt anyone, but it must be scary having a stranger staring at you. My cousin hasn't seen the man for a year and a half, so hopefully he's free of this freaky spirit. That's hard to know. Good, bad, otherwise, I don't know. I don't know why they would come to the conclusion that he could be negative, since they didn't have any real negative experiences. The kid saw the spirit, but I don't think that in and of itself makes it a negative entity. So I don't know why there's a question. I would assume that it's not until you know otherwise, but I guess it all depends on whether or not you're open to sharing your space with a spirit or spirits. But I don't know if we really get a whole lot of choice about whether they're around or not. I think we can have a choice about whether they're in our space or not. We certainly, I believe, are empowered to have them leave or to get them to leave. But I don't know. I think that we probably are always surrounded by spirits. I don't think you can go anywhere without being near some form of spiritual energy. But I don't know what that means necessarily either. So, but anyway, that's the man wearing boots. So let's go to the next one. And this is Florida. We got a lot of people here. Wow, this is fantastic. Thank you all for being here and taking a. Oh, okay. Scotty, I see what you're saying. Brenton Sawn finally uploaded a new video. I know he's been kind of on a hiatus for a while, I've heard. But, yeah, he does a good job. He's been at it for a long time. I don't know him personally, but I think he does a good job. And he's been a part of the community for a long time. So I hope he's okay. The Kev Baker Show directed you here. Good job, Tyler. Well, thank Mr. Kev. Sometimes he comes in here and listens to these bedtime stories as well. So I don't know if he'll be in yet or not. But Kev, of course, is a fellow host on the TFR Live or Truth Frequency Radio Network, and a great guy. They do a great job on their all of their live streams I've been checking out lately have been absolutely magnificent, and I like watching the Freaky Friday one, especially when I'm prepping for my show, which follows the Freaky Friday show on the TFR network. So, but thanks for coming over, guys. Those of you that heard about us from Kev Baker's show, thank you so much. He was in and shared links. Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm sorry I missed him. He's a great guy. Kev's a really cool guy. The Woo crew. You got it right, Mr. Jones. That's right. Kev is the father of TFR Woo. Nick from Spokane. How you doing? Good to see you. I haven't seen you for a long time. Thanks for coming in. That's awesome. It's awesome you all came in. Thank you so much. Oh, very cool, Mr. Jones. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm thrilled that you're here. So wonderful. But anyway, let me continue on, and we'll see where we can get to here. So this is Florida. I have a couple of experiences to tell you, and I'd like to let you in on eerie events that have happened in my house, and would appreciate your suggestions and feedbacks. I live in the Tampa Bay area for almost 5 years now, and up until about 2 years ago, I bought a huge 5-bedroom house for me and 4 roommates to share. Initially, I didn't know very much about the history of the house. I only knew that it was built in the mid-'70s, and there had been one owner. The weird thing was, I had a really hard time trying to close the deal on the house. Someone had stolen my identity and caused my credit to plummet. I had no idea of this before the mortgage lender pulled my credit history, and therefore my loan was rejected and the deal fell through. I called the credit bureau to report the identity theft, and they somewhat fixed my credit. Though my credit was not recovered completely, it's enough for the lender to approve the loan. A few days before closing, the title company gave me a hard time by refusing to send out someone to close the deal because their office is located 2 hours away. My broker and I hopped into his car and drove to them with paperwork in hand and demanded some action. They told us to go home, for they would not sign any paperwork that day. We threatened them with a lawsuit to get them to finally acknowledge their obligation and honor the deal. On top of that, the day when we were supposed to move in, the previous owner had not gotten any of his stuff out of the house, so we waited another 48 hours before everything was cleared. I began to sense a strong feeling that something was trying to prevent me from buying this house. As I said before, the house is huge, and upon crossing the threshold to the front door, there is a long corridor leading to a large family room. On the right side of the hallway, there are the kitchen connecting to the laundry room, the master bedroom, and a smaller bedroom on the left side of the hallway. There are a bedroom directly across from the master bedroom, a large walk-in closet storage area with a full bathroom next to it. And there are 2 master bedrooms on the second floor with a humongous connected balcony. The house was a fixer-upper. This is an upper fixer. I don't know what the hell that means. So the first couple of weeks were reserved for renovations only. On the first day, we painted the walls and installed bedroom doors. And at around 12 a.m., I got tired, called it a night, and retrieved back to my rental house. I don't know if they meant retired, but anyway, I'm going to have to grade this and hand it back. One of my roommates stayed back to finish up, and he was alone. It was around 1 a.m. when he was painting the wall opposite from his bedroom entrance. Suddenly, he heard a flapping noise behind him. Well, he looked back, but there was nothing there. Needless to say, it startled him and shook him up a bit, so he went to the door and stuck his head out to the long hallway to find a large owl standing on top of a jar door between the corridor and the family room. It just stood there staring at him for several minutes and then flew back out. Well, he was surprised to see the front door open because he heard me closing it before I left. The only time when I see an owl is at the zoo, and I find it really odd that there was an owl in a suburban neighborhood, let alone one in my house. I was told that in some cultures, any time an owl enters your house or stands on your rooftop, it's a bad omen, usually associated with death. Upon learning this, I contacted my real estate agent to find out more about the history of the house, and she came back to me a few days later and informed me that the previous owner had a son who died in the house due to cancer. He collapsed right by the front door and was only 23 years old. Sometimes people tell me they immediately feel something upon entering through the front door. Really eerie things started to happen. A couple of weeks after we moved in, my niece and her boyfriend stayed for a few days and experienced something that scared the wits out of them. The room they were in is close to the kitchen and the laundry room. On this day, they were home alone and heard the door to the laundry room open and slam shut several times. Yeah, that'd creep you out. When that finally stopped, they began to hear footsteps approaching their bedroom. The footsteps sounded like steel boots stomping on hardwood floors. They became louder and louder and then they ceased altogether just as they reached the door. All of a sudden, the doorknob started to rattle vigorously as if someone was trying to break the lock. They panicked and sought whatever in the room that they could be used as a weapon, and they stood by the door quietly and waited, with a porcelain piggy bank in hand, ready to smash someone in the head with it. They were convinced that the house was being burglarized. A few silent moments had passed, then nothing else happened. The rattling stopped, no retrieving footsteps, no slamming doors, but too petrified to open the door, my niece called 911 from her cell phone. Feeling like sitting ducks, the only thing they could do was stay alert and wait it out. The cops came, and of course they found no one. Nothing was stolen, no broken entrance. In fact, all the doors were locked, including the laundry room. My niece would like to think of herself as a logical person that refuses to believe in ghosts. She would not accept anything more or less of a rational experience for what had happened. But as for me, I really can't rule anything out. Too many unusual activities have been reported in my house. Then there's the incident involving another guy in one of the master bedrooms upstairs. I occupied one room while this guy had the other, and he recalls paranormal occurrences that happened late at night as he was asleep. Low, whispering voices woke him up, and he could not make out what they were saying or what language they were speaking in, but He was able to determine that they were female voices coming from all directions, just in low whispers. After the voices came the shadows on the walls, and they were females with long hair and in dresses, and they came on several occasions, but as with each time, they quickly disappeared as soon as they came. It's always the same words, the same tone, almost like repeating a dream. Sometimes they were shadows of female children and female adults, while other times only female adults. Now, as you recall, there's a door on the end of the hallway that leads to the family room. The hallway door has a window stretching from top to bottom, so a person who stands at the front door of the house can actually look down the long corridor through the hallway door and see the family room. On this one particular night, a roommate woke up to go to the bathroom, and as he was walking along the hallway, still half asleep, he saw some movement straight ahead through the glass door. Frozen in disbelief, he saw an old man with white hair, white shirt, just floating, not walking, but floating back and forth. The old man had no torso and no lower limbs. Half of his body was missing. Freaking out and just standing there in total shock, he kept telling himself, it's just a dream. But he couldn't move any of his limbs. Sight and fear kicked in full effect, while his other senses ceased to exist. When he was finally able to break free, he ran to his bedroom, grabbed his keys, and drove off. He did not come home for 4 days, and when he did make it, he made sure it was daylight and everyone was home. I tried to find an explanation, but he was not buying it. He said he saw what he saw, and there was nothing anyone could say to make him think otherwise. Well, he packed his stuff and left for good. Things really were out of control when a roommate thought he was assaulted by supernatural entities. He came down with the flu and had to take medication prescribed by his doctor. The sedative started to kick in and the drowsiness came. Not yet fully asleep, he thought he heard voices calling his name and thought he saw images of evil spirits trying to strangle him. Though many illegal drugs can cause extreme hallucinations, I've never known prescription medication to do that. He claimed it all seemed so real that he could actually feel the dry, scaly hands. He tried to pull them away from his throat, and he too no longer lives in that house. None of my roommates have moved out, while a couple new people have moved in. Or it says most of my roommates had moved out, but a couple of new people had moved in. The new tenants are aware of these paranormal activities, and they are told exactly what has happened, and so far nothing is being reported, and I have yet to witness or personally experience anything out of the ordinary. Though I am still a bit skeptical, I really cannot argue with 4 other people. I just have to take their word for it and make sure to keep my eyes and ears open. If there really are ghosts in my house, I would like to know what they want. A couple of things I know for sure. The house was built 35 years ago. There's only been 1 death. Also, the neighbors built on part of the land which the Seminole Indians had once occupied. Very possibly my house was built on top of an Indian burial ground. I would sell it to a willing buyer that is fully aware of its abnormality. I can't afford to have my tenants chased out every time there is a haunting crisis. My neighbors are very noisy, gossipy, and not very forgiving, and I refuse to be the nut that every neighborhood has. Therefore, bringing in a clairvoyant medium is out of the question. Any suggestion is appreciated. Thanks. Well, if you kind of got a choice there, I guess. If you want it maybe helped and to help these spirits cross, then you kind of got to bring someone in to do it. If you're not willing to do that because of how people may perceive you, then I guess you're kind of screwed. I don't know. There are some mediums that'll do that from a distance, though. I know that Sean and Dee and some others are willing to do that, or at least try to do that. I haven't heard of any not working, but I don't know what the distance does for that effect. But it doesn't sound like it makes a whole lot of difference. So I'm sure this person could get in touch with somebody who'll do it remotely. But there again, learn to use some sage. I guess that's about your only option. If you're not going to bring someone in, then learn to use sage. All right, let's go to the next one, which is coming from Washington, right next door to me, right here. I, of course, am in the upper tip of Idaho, so we got Montana on one side and Washington on the other, and we're just kind of sandwiched right in the middle. I'm not sure how to explain it, but I know I'm not crazy. In my room, I see a dark figure of a man. He stays in my room, mostly in the doorway of my closet. There are 5 people in my house, and I am the only one who has noticed it. The only time I notice it is when I'm alone. I've asked him what he wants, and he never talks. I've seen him move. He peeks out at me, almost. I can see him with a hat on. The hat has a brim all the way around it. The rest is just black, and I can't see his face or any details, even though I can tell you which way he is standing or facing and what he's doing. I'm not educated on this stuff, but someone once told me it was an entity and they could get physical. He's been here for about 4 months that I've noticed, and just lately, it has been more that I have seen of him. Is this an evil thing, or is he here because he is connected to me in some way? I can feel his presence, and he seems to be getting closer. On many occasions when I'm alone, I feel something tap or nudge me. Sometimes I'm watching something funny on television, not even thinking about him, when all of a sudden I get a chill and an eerie feeling, and then I look over and there he is. I also feel sometimes he's behind me, and then I walk faster down the hall or something, and the faster I go, he goes. And then it's like he's chasing me. If anyone knows anything about this, I would like to have some input. Then, of course, they give their email address. Now, this story is quite old, so it's not like current events, but it's still an interesting story. It sounds like it could be a shadow person. The Hat Man could fit that description, but I don't know. It could be a lot of things. Again, just because people report seeing shadowy figures doesn't necessarily mean it's a shadow person. Shadow people are these very specific types of spiritual entities, and by spiritual, I just mean that they seem very ethereal and are not necessarily physical manifestations of an entity. They seem, I've heard a couple of different versions of what the shadow people are, but I've even heard that they're very good to have around. I've heard that there's a First Nations explanation. Don actually found this, and that one of the First Nation tribes believes that the shadow people are very helpful and that they do consume negative energy, but that's good because they consume it so that you aren't burdened by it. So maybe perhaps it's good to have them around if they're eating that stuff up, if they're pulling it off of you, and any kind of negative energy buildup is of course going to have ramifications, I think, eventually on a very physical level. So if these things are indeed benevolent and helping to pull that stuff away, then fantastic. I'd rather deal with some uncomfortable experiences rather than have some kind of disease manifested as a result of a negative buildup like that. But, again, it falls to you. What do you believe? What don't you believe? And I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. And I don't think I'm qualified to tell you what to believe. But you just have to look into it and see what you think. Now, I've also heard that they are very negative and that they prey on old and the very young, and they can be dangerous in that regard. So I don't know. I'm not sure what they are. I've heard both sides of the story. I've never experienced them myself directly, so I don't have a personal opinion of it. But the portal is a discussion, so I'm just sharing that information with you guys. So if any of you have any kind of knowledge about these shadow people, then let me know for sure. All right, so now this is going back to California. We're going all the way back to California. This one's not. Oh, this is the one I'm not going to read. That's right. Never mind. Sorry, California. But it's the reason I'm not reading is because it's written by an investigator, and this person submits a lot of different stories, and the reason I don't bother reading them on the show is only because this show is supposed to be at least entertaining. At least that's my intention, even though it doesn't always work that way. But when investigators write a report, they're very clinical, they're very scientific, and it has a lot of timestamps and quick explanations of what's going on. And it doesn't narrate well. It doesn't narrate well for the show. So if it's built in story form, it's a lot more fun to read. But If it's not, it's kind of cumbersome and awkward. It doesn't flow very well. So let me see where we're at with the time here as we move forward. Oh, wow. I guess it's it. It's been 55 minutes already. My God, it's flown by, ladies and gentlemen. That is the portal, though. It is a time-space anomaly as well as an entertaining source for all your paranormal enjoyment. But I guess that's going to wrap it up for tonight. I hope you guys have enjoyed this foray into the paranormal portal. I am so thrilled to meet all of you new people that are coming in. It's an absolute honor, and thank you so much for being here. Thank you all, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful night. Of course, be sure to check out the podcast. Part 2 of our interview with Stephen Major is going to be tomorrow. The Port Chatham Harryman Part 2 podcast will be released. So wherever you get your podcast from, whether it's Pandora, iHeart, iTunes, or Spotify, or wherever, check it out. Definitely help us support our podcasting efforts, as it's been a lot of fun and it's really growing. We're getting tens and tens of thousands of downloads, and it's just really exciting. So you can be a part of that as well if you like the Paranormal Portal. That's another way to help support what we're doing. Just pay attention or download them and subscribe if you like the shows, the podcasts. Head over to iTunes and leave us a good review, because that'll help iTunes promote it to more of the listeners over there. So, but we are absolutely thrilled to always be bringing you all the paranormal fun and hijinks that we can. I guess I'll be back tomorrow night to bring you more of the bedtime stories. So I hope you guys will come back then. Again, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 days a week. I'm doing a Paranormal Portal right here on our YouTube channel. So come back and I'll be here waiting for you. And we'll do more ghost stories or something else. Again, Wednesday and Friday and Saturday are our 2-hour shows. And again, the Friday, Saturday shows are also simulcast on Truth Frequency Radio or TFR Live, as well as iHeart, TuneIn, and TalkStream Live. So we're kind of covering a lot of bases here, and we're really thrilled that you guys are here with us. So thank you all so much. I love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. And I'll be back tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, for more of the bedtime stories. So I hope I'll see you guys then. Good night, everybody. Sweet dreams.